All right, we got episode 24. I am here with Shawn Coleman of Hammer Territory from the Foul Territory Network, I believe. So, Shawn, thank you so much for joining, and I appreciate it.
Hey, yeah, good talking with you today, Julian. Hope everything's good on your end. Always good to get to talk baseball, the Braves. I can't necessarily say I enjoy talking about the Mets, but you know what? I'll bite my tongue and we'll make our way through it. So,
Well, things are looking good for the Braves this series, at least. They won the first two games. I believe it looks like they're going to win right now, too, based on the situation. So we'll see if they hold on. You never know these days. Bullpen leads
exactly.
are never safe in today's Major League Baseball. So
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the Braves can speak to that more than most, unfortunately, this season.
yeah, I know there was that crazy game against the Diamondbacks and a few other situations that they blew. Right now it is 7-1, no to 7, so you would think that they would hold on. But again, don't know, 6 outs left. So like, does this series give you hope that the Braves can get themselves back in the mix after the potential sweep is working?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it definitely does give me some hope. Don't want to put too much emphasis on it because the Braves still have a big way to climb, and it's not even necessarily about how many games they have to climb out of the hole that they're in. It's how many teams that they got to scale past in order to even have the playoffs as a potential outcome. But this team, what hasn't changed about this team is that the level of proof that's there that if they could just get going multiple aspects of their team just get going to the level that they're capable of at the same time, they could turn it around. And if we wind up winning this game, we'll win 7 out of 9, coming off, the heels of losing 14 out of 17. But, I mentioned it a few different places, Julian. The big thing for the Braves, they just got to score 5 runs a game. You'll be amazed to see in baseball the difference in winning percentages between when a team scores 5 runs a game and when a team scores 4 runs a game. That's why we were so good for many years under, Brian Snicker and Alex Anthopoulos. We were one of the best offenses in baseball, but we kind of tailed off over the past year and a few months. But we've been done pretty well. We're consistently scoring 5 runs a game. And with how good our starting pitching has been, with Spencer Strider getting back to form and Swellenbach and Sale being absolute studs, we got a remedy that could, help us get back into this thing. But we're going to have to keep the momentum going. It's great to sweep the Mets, but we don't need to then go lose two out of three to the Marlins. We've done that plenty of times this year.
Yeah, so like what's been the most frustrating part of the season? Like what's been the like I want this is an interesting question, but I'll say it like this. What's been your least favorite surprise, I guess? Like the biggest surprise has been a negative. I guess like biggest disappointment is probably the better way to phrase that.
No, it's a good question. I think that it's the plateauing of some of the more important pieces of our offense, specifically Austin Riley and Ozzie Albies, as well as Michael Harris II. Those three homegrown talents, coming off last year, each of them had kind of had a down year. Each of them had dealt with injuries, things such as that. Michael Harris II ended the year on a good note, but he's been dreadful for a good part of the season. I love Michael Harris. He is a wonderful person, wonderful ambassador for the team, absolutely amazing fielder. But there's just so much talent that he has offensively, and he just cannot give himself the chance to be able to be, able to showcase it. So his lack of production, the lack of production from those three talents, especially as they're entering their primes, it's hard to see because if we have World Series aspirations, I think that we should still have those, but those three guys are going to have to get going more consistently for us to realize that.
Yeah, that makes a good point. So I'll talk to you about Albies. Like, what do you think the problem is with him? Like, do you think he can figure it out? Like, is it the guy that like they could trade if they fall out of it? Because I've seen those rumors, but I think they've been squashed for the most part. Like, if they do fall out, like, do you actually see them doing anything significant or just like house cleaning?
No, I don't think that there's a house cleaning. Alex Anthopoulos came on the flagship station of the Braves in Atlanta just yesterday and talked about the fact that he doesn't envision us selling. He sees us probably as a buyer. I think he may have been joking, but he was, hinted at trying to make a trade now just to show that they weren't selling. But he was
I think
very
I did
emphatic
see
about
that.
yeah. he was very emphatic about the fact he's not trading Chris Sale, and he also mentioned the point that if someone is under contract beyond this year, they're likely not going anywhere. And to be honest with you, when we talk specifically about Ozzy Albies, it's just not the right time to trade him because his value is at such a low point. The problem is, unfortunately, is that when you see a player who has had the past success that Ozzy Albies has had, but he struggled over the past year plus, you usually think that the underperformance could be encouraged. You look at the underperformance, but you get encouraged by the fact that, the metrics are still there. Well, with Ozzy Albies, very little is still. The bat speed's fallen off. The quality of contact's fallen off. The patience has gone up a bit this year, but the overall approach is just lacking significantly. And so while you would love to see him get better, he's shown a bit more patience at the plate at times this year. But overall, he's got to regain that ability to make impactful contact when he actually swings the bat. And I don't know if that's a lighter bat. I don't know if that's changing his approach or what have you. But until that happens, it's hard to see him getting significantly better than he is right now.
So, Rocky, thanks for helping us out with this. We appreciate it. We say what's up as we power through. Your Blue Jays are looking halfway decent these days, although I think they lost today. But the Yankees finally won a game. But more importantly, with the Braves and everything and Albies, like, it's kind of stunning because he's not an old guy. Like, his age is still on his side. Like, you wonder where the bat speed's gone. Like, is it just like the league catching up to him? Is he trying too hard? Like, is it just not like making the proper adjustments? Like, I'm not really sure what goes into that.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a variety of things. There could be the fact that, it could be lingering effects from the fact that he
had injury, maybe.
He had the wrist injury last year. His profile, his body type, as it gets older and it loses some of that, athleticism, not even talking about someone who, steals a lot of bases or things like that, but just the overall quick movement and things like that could be playing a part in it. I don't really want to get into all that because I don't have all that knowledge on how all that works. But in general, I think that you hit the nail on the head. I think that what it is also more than anything is the league has figured him out. Ozzy Albies over the past 5 to 6 years, has had, despite his injuries, he's had some of the highest at bat totals, in the National League. So pitchers know him. He's built up these matchups in these big sample sizes. So people know how to pitch to him. And if he doesn't display the patience, they know how to get him out. Well, that's exactly what they're doing. He's just seeing less opportunity to put that quality contact that I was speaking to him in to go on the ball. And if overall his bat speed slowed and his approach overall is not as in tune as it once was, you just don't have a good mixture of potential success there. So I think it's familiarity with the league. Pitchers know how to get him out now, and he hasn't necessarily adjusted. But the other thing about it is that, again, he's just got to figure out how he can consistently make quality contact.
So I'm taking more towards the positive side. How about Ronald Acuna Jr. and his return and all the stuff that he's doing, looking like his MVP self? Do you think, like, obviously a 390 batting average isn't sustainable, like we're seeing with Judge and his 400 dropping, but like, how sustainable do you think it is what he's doing so far, and like what type of seasons you envision him having?
But I think what the best way for me to describe it is this, is that without a shadow of a doubt, the best singular offensive source in baseball is Aaron Judge. Like Aaron Judge over the past few years, he's been an absolutely historical level of production. But you can make the case, Julian, that right now Ronald Acuna Jr. is the second best singular source of offense or second best singular source of bat production in the majors. And that just speaks to how valuable Ronald Acuna Jr. is, that he's doing that coming right back from a second major knee injury, coming off his second torn ACL. So that's the thing that stands out, is that he's been out for more than a year. He's a battery of himself who gets so much of his production from his legs, and he comes back for that major surgery, and it's like he hasn't skipped a beat. He's actually performing better than he did at the plate in his MVP year. You have to go back to 2021 to see the last time he's done what he's done. But right now, I would make the argument that Ronald Acuna Jr. is the second best offensive player in the game, and that's saying a lot with how much quality hitters, Juan Soto in New York, Shohei, and all those guys in LA. But just seeing what Ronald Acuna Jr. doing is spectacular, and just speaks to the fact that even despite the serious injuries that he's had, he's maintaining that he's one of the best in the game.
Yeah, it's been cool to see his return. And baseball's definitely better when Acuna is playing. So it's cool to see what he's doing again, hitting a bunch of homers. The speeds hasn't come on the base pass, but maybe it will. He might be waiting for it. It's only 23 games. So it's like a 2B war already, though. Maybe higher after tonight. So You talked about Soto. What are your thoughts from him based off what you've seen him do in Atlanta, maybe just like his whole season in general, and relative to like what was expected when he signed that monster contract?
I think everybody expected for him to instantly become Aaron Judge 2.0 or perform his whole
Yeah.
season. And the thing that I'll say is this: is that I think that this year overall has been, all the respect of the world to Juan Soto. He is incredible. Has had one of the best offensive starts to a career that we've seen in baseball history. This year probably has been a bit of a down year to him, but he still is among the best hitters in baseball. I mean, what
Yeah.
he did Spencer Swellenbach in the first inning, back I believe it was Tuesday night, he hit that home run to left center field. It's just Juan Soto, Julian, has always amazed me with how well he can generate. I talk about with Ozzie Albies, that quality contact. Juan Soto is so good at making that impactful contact. No matter where you pitch him, no matter where in the count that it is, he's going to find a pitch that he likes and drive it. And he can drive it to all parts of the field. It's incredible the amount of back control that he has. But the thing is that we're seeing as slow of a start that we've seen from Juan Soto, yet the Mets still are arguably the best team in the National League. Just wait till he finds his groove and gets going. That's when they're going to be extremely dangerous. So, yeah, it's probably been a bit of a down season for Juan Soto so far, but does it mean that the Mets in any way, shape, or form should have buyers with remorse with how much they invested in him, or that you should be worried he's not going to get back to being the Juan Soto of old? No. He'll be his old self in due time, and he still, in my opinion, was the best singular addition to a team this past offseason.
I think that's all fair for the most part. I basically agree with all of it. I've kind of been reiterating some of it over these shows I've been doing since it's a Yankees and Mets podcast, so I got to hit both sides. But speaking of that, like with the Mets, do you view the Mets or the Phillies as the better team? Like, how do you see the NL East shaking out at the top?
Oh, it's a good question. I think the Mets probably are the better team right now. I think when you look at the overall comparison between those two teams, I think that you could say two things about the Mets. I feel like they've got the better pitching staff overall, and the numbers show that, though I think that a bit of regression is going to come for the pitching staff. And I think that you have to say that the best bat in either lineup right now is probably Pete Alonso. He's been absolutely incredible. It was a great decision by the Mets to bring him back on that one-year contract. We'll see if it leads to something long-term. Now, I think the Phillies in a playoff series, I still could see them being the favorite because I think that talent-wise, they have more high-end talents. But in terms of
I feel that way too.
Yeah. I think the Mets are a more complete team, though the Phillies probably still maintain more star power. And in a playoff series that the Phillies star power is on, I could see them being the favorites. But I think that both teams are kind of equal. I think both teams are better than the Braves right now. But the Braves have also had some pretty good success so far this year against both teams. We'll see if that continues next week.
Yeah, to me, like I could maybe see the Braves sneaking that third wild card spot. Like you said, so many teams they have to jump. I'd be shocked if they caught the Mets or the Phillies just because how much behind they are, even with this potential sweep, which is now an inning away, I think, as we do this live in the bottom of the eighth. But hold on to your pants. But
we're gonna sit there and enjoy watching this sweep. You enjoy it as well, Julian.
Yeah, it doesn't really affect me that much, so I'm good either way. But we'll see how that goes. But with like all the races and the stuff on the teams, like I feel like the Phillies starting rotation should be better, but it hasn't been, which is odd. And I know part of that's definitely because of Aaron Nola. Jesus Luzardo's been on a roller coaster ride after an amazing start. Ranger's been good now. Wheeler's always Wheeler. And Sanchez has been solid again. So, like, the Phillies have some pieces. The Mets bullpen's probably a tick better. The Phillies bullpen needs a lot of work. The lineup is probably slightly Mets, so the lineup depth is probably close. Really depends what version of Soto the Mets get by the end of the year, like what version of Harbor do the Phillies get when he returns. JT Realmuto's really taking a downward swoon, though, and Castellanos is going through it a little bit, trying to see what getting benched for the first time in a while and not having the great offensive year either. So there's definitely a lot of moving parts for both teams. I think they're both playoff teams, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, and I think the other thing that you mentioned is you go through, some of the details of both teams. I mean, throw the Braves into that mix. Again, I don't think the Braves are comparable right now to the Phillies and the Mets, and the records obviously show that. But as of right now, as of this moment that we're speaking, if you look at all three rosters, I think you can make the case the best hitter out of all three rosters is a Brave.
Maybe, yeah.
The best pitcher right now of all three rosters is a Brave, Chris Sale. So you look at that, and you can make the case. It goes to show that you're correct. The Braves, probably the best way they're going to make the playoff run is to get a wild card spot, because I don't think they're going to catch the Mets or the Phillies when it comes to the division. But if they get that playoff series and our best are performing at their best, we're right there with the Mets and Phillies and anybody else.
That's a good point. All you have to do is get in. We've seen it happen numerous times. The Braves are the type of get-in team that no one's going to want to see. Last year, everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Maybe it's a reverse this year. Maybe the Braves sneak in. Maybe everything starts to go right. Maybe they start to find some 2021 magic was the year they won it all. 2021, right. There we go. I knew it took me a minute, but so speaking of things that have kind of gone awry here, what's going on with Rafael Iglesias? This guy was lights out last year, and this year he can't seem to find the backside of a barn, and that's a big difference because he was like the anchor of the Braves bullpen.
Yeah. No, basically, when it came to last year, he was very much he had a lot of batted ball luck go his way, and this year he
was one of those. I see. I see. Yeah, okay, I got you.
Basically, it was an overcorrection this year. Last year, the ability to keep the ball in the ballpark, to keep the ball out of the air, limit that quality contact again that we talk about. All those things he did last year in an elite level. That's why he was one of the best and probably most underrated bullpen arms in the game. But this year, it's been an overcorrection. If he makes a mistake, it is getting walloped, and it's getting walloped out of the park. And so that's something that's been there. But to Rafael Iglesias' credit, you've not heard anything negative come from him. You've not heard, anything, that would make you think as if, it's led to him being a, problem for the team or in the clubhouse or anything like that. As a matter of fact, you very rarely hear anything from him because he's just so good when he's on the mound.
I haven't heard much from him either, from an outside view.
Yeah, here recently, even though he's not necessarily our consistent closer anymore, he's taken the role. You can call it an emotion. He's taken the role, but he's been solid. I think he would pitch. Was it last night? Yeah, he pitched one of these past two nights in the eighth inning, and also against the Rockies. And he's performed well over the past couple of weeks. So if we could get that version of Rafael Iglesias back, especially with Daysbor Hernandez now being on the IL, that'd be a great addition. If we could get some certainty back in the back end of our bullpen, that's just one step closer to us being where we expected to be and getting out of this hole that we find ourselves in.
So now I'll go to another guy who's he's performing okay. I'm kind of curious how you view him. He's a big power bat, basically hitting for an 800 OPS. That's Marcell Ozuna. How do you feel he's performed this year? Yeah. Do you think he has a hot stretch in him? I mean, he's really such a consistent hitter. He's basically over 30 to 100 every year almost when he's healthy. How do you feel about his play and how it impacts the rest of the team?
Well, of course, the thing with Marcell Iglesias, the thing with Marcell Ozuna is that if you go back towards the first of the season, I think it was our first road trip, towards middle of April, we were playing against Tampa Bay, and I forget that Steinbrenner Field or whatever in Tampa, and he pulled up lame. It looked like that he had a bad injury and he hurt his hip evidently. And so they talked about it a few weeks back. He basically has a hip injury that he's just going to have to deal with for the rest of the season.
Boy.
Yeah. And I think that's hampered him a bit. Something else that I think has kind of come into play is that, there was always going to be a bit of regression when it comes to his overall success with putting balls in play. And pitchers are just not giving him enough to hit. That's why he's been towards the top of the league in walks. And that's probably made him a bit passive. But I think it's a combination of things. I don't think that he's 100%. He's gotten a year older into his mid-30s. And I think also the fact that he's tried to change his approach based off what pitchers are giving him. And I think that can make him, a little bit lacking when it comes to his aggressiveness that we've seen in the past. But he still definitely is capable of being a true difference maker in the middle of our order. I just don't think his ceiling is what it was last year, but perhaps we can get one of his hot streaks going in that second half with either Riley and Olsen to support Acuna.
Yeah, I could see. I think I did remember an IL thing because I think I had him in fantasy baseball, so now that makes sense. And
Yep.
he's a consistent hitter. Like the PIP is going to be a problem. Seems like another issue. I mean, he'll probably still be a solid hitter. He might just lose a few bombs, which they could probably use. But I mean, we'll see how he does if he can manage it. Maybe he comes out blazing the second half after he has a few days off. Probably won't be in any All Star festivities. I wouldn't think. So even though it's in Atlanta, so I'm not sure. Maybe he would be, but if he's hurt, he probably shouldn't. I guess we'll go there. How do you feel about the All Star game being in Atlanta? Do you think it's cool for the city after all the stuff? I'm not gonna go all crazy, but like all the reasons why it wasn't there, and like now it's back, and after all the years that should have been. Like, how do you feel about that?
That's good to see. It's good to see that it is in Atlanta. And, like you mentioned, there were reasons that it was not here in the past. Like you, I'm not going to get into all that. But the big thing that I'm getting at
Yeah,
is that it's nice to see it. It's nice to see a fan base that is so amazing as Braves country is, get to see it at the center of all that, one of the biggest celebrations of baseball that we can have, because we're all passionate about baseball, right? You yourself included. So when you get to
yeah,
see the best of the best in one spot, and that one spot just happens to be the home of your favorite team, it's hard to get better than that. So, obviously we all wish that the results right now on the field were a bit better leading up to the All-Star game. We wish that we could have, we could be talking about maybe 5 or 7 Braves in that All-Star game, but I don't think we're going to get that. It's exciting to see, and it's going to be a fun event. I think with Ronald Acuna Jr. back, being healthy and playing at the level that he is, him kind of being a focal point, a centerpiece of that All-Star weekend, I think is something that will work out, and we may be trending towards Chris Sale taking the mound for the Braves to start for the National League. So if those things work out, I think it'll be a fine weekend. But yeah, excited to see it in Atlanta. It's never a bad thing to see one of the biggest celebrations of the sport that you love take place on the home field of the team that you're passionate about.
do you think they have any other All Stars or just those two?
Spencer Swellabot may have a chance to potentially
Yeah,
get
he's
in.
been good.
And if you were to see an injury to maybe an Alonso or a Freeman, you might see Matt Olson in there. I think what's probably going to be another storyline that's going to be fun is all the potential former Braves that could be there, because you could see Freddie Freeman obviously starting first base in Atlanta, and then also Max Fried potentially. I think Tarek Scoble will get the mound for the American League. But Max Fried's going to pitch at some point, so seeing the reception that he'll get will be fun to see. So a lot of fun for current and former Braves.
So I guess I'll ask about Fried since you brought him up. Like, how do you feel he's done with the Yankees? Like, were you surprised with how well he's pitched, or did you expect him to come into the Bronx and be lights out for the Yankees?
I didn't expect for him to be this good. I didn't think that the Bronx was going to be a setting that was going to intimidate him or anything, because Max Fried is as cool and collected as it can be. But he's absolutely having the best start to a year that he's had in his career. And it's great to see. I'm very happy for Max Fried. Would love to have kept him. Probably didn't make the most sense for us to spend that money on him. But he has made the most of his situation, and he's shown that he was worth every penny of that contract so far. So I'm extremely happy for him. Obviously Charlie Morton, Freddie Freeman, Dansby Swanson, all these former Braves
There's a lot of them.
Want the best for them when they're not playing the Braves. But yes, Max Fried has been absolutely incredible. And while I think Tarek Scoble is obviously going to be in place to win his second straight Cy Young, I think Max Fried, you can make the case that he's right there as being the second best pitcher in the American League so far this season.
Yeah, I think you can toss and turn over which guy you would start. Hunter Brown's been having a great year too, and there's a lot of competition. And even Garrett Crochet striking everybody out, even though his ERA is a little bit higher. There's a lot of people in there. So we'll get going. We'll start closing down soon. One of my last questions I'll ask you is, at the Braves trade deadline, like what areas do you see them attacking if they're going to go by?
Yeah, probably left field. I think that, they could go with the outfield. They can go at shortstop, and they could go to the bullpen. And I'm not talking about them even getting star players. I'm just talking about them getting guys with league average production, just a reliable 6th or 7th inning guy that more often than not is going to get the job done in the bullpen. A reliable glove at shortstop that can give you league average offense. And then a 4th outfielder that you feel can come in and can make a difference, because while we're getting Jerks and Profar back at the beginning of July, and he's he's going to be a significant, addition to this lineup. We're going to be out without him for the playoffs because of his suspension. So I think they may look for outfield depth as well. I don't think that they're going to address all those needs, but additional outfield depth, the shortstop position, as well as bullpen. I think that that's going to be something that they look to add to.
Is Profar going to be in left field when he returns? Is that going to be the plan from you think?
Oh yeah. Let's see here.
I know it's coming up. I saw he's starting his rehab, well, not rehab, whatever training, I guess, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I don't even know what it's called technically, but whatever he's doing, he's ramping up to get himself ready to return. However you want to specify
absolutely.
that.
And to answer your question, yes, he will be out in left field. And the reason why he'll be out in left field is because that's what he was signed to play. He was signed to play. He was signed for his bat, not to really fulfill, any type of defensive value position.
Right.
Yeah, so he'll be out in left field. His overall ability to get on base and make contact will certainly be welcome, but he's got to prove himself again. Last year, we don't know how much last year was due to the fact that he was taking performance-enhancing drugs.
Yeah, that's questionable.
And it's also the fact that, besides last year, he was pretty pedestrian overall with this production throughout the rest of his career. So you could easily make the case that, perhaps it was enhanced a bit. I think that he is not going to be as good as he was last year, but I think he's going to be significantly better than the other options that we have. So when we're just trying to make the playoffs, I still think there's good opportunity for him to at least add some value.
Yeah, well, we'll see how that goes. I'm definitely curious to see how he's going to look in the Braves uni after all this time off. I think you made some valid points. So tell us about your journey, how you got to where you are, your podcasting journey, where people could find you, and maybe a cool moment or memory along your ride.
Yeah, sure. So ever since I was born, and I thank my dad for this. My dad unfortunately passed away, back last year. But, when I was growing up and the time that I, had with him when I was young, he just instilled a love of sports in me that, it's just, I'm passionate about sports. I've loved sports. I love I was born and raised in Tennessee. So love any and all things Tennessee balls, and love the Braves, obviously, as well as the Memphis Grizzlies and Tennessee Titans. But, my interest in sports has always been there. But actually doing stuff in sports, Julian, to be honest with you, started, with my brother. My brother was a much better athlete than I was. But, man, some of my best sports memories are just seeing him be able to have success in sports. Well, that's when I started keeping stats as well as announcing and doing all that different stuff. I, announced for him and, back in the small hometown that I'm from, and here in the Memphis area, I also have done a bit of announcing. And then just in general, I've always wanted to kind of cover sports, and I've always had a love for numbers. So stats is kind of the niche where I've found some success, being able to, present perspectives through numbers and, find interesting tidbits about, what could be causing this trend or that trend. That's just kind of been a passion of mine. So it's allowed for me to kind of, take off a little bit with covering sports for the Grizzlies as well, the Braves, blogging and podcasting. It's just stuff I enjoy doing. And I think that that's one of the keys to life that so many people forget, is that, just being able to take a little bit of time and do stuff that you enjoy doing, that, makes you feel like a kid no matter how old you get. That's what makes life fun. So, but yeah, that's kind of my career. I've been, I did sports broadcasting 10 to 15 years ago. I've been blogging and podcasting for the past several years. I have a great team over in Hammer Territory that I feel so lucky to be a part of. And more than anything, when it comes to the Braves, I'm just thankful that I'm one part of the best fan base in baseball, which is Brave Country. No offense to the Mets or Yankees fan bases, but I'm proud to be part of Braves Country. So.
Yeah, well, up here in New York, they take their baseball really seriously, too. I know down in Atlanta they do as well. Mets and Braves is always a war. Yankees, Braves, old playoff wars. And I don't think the Yankees played the Braves yet. I think there's one series coming. I think the Yankees actually go to Atlanta semi-soon, actually. Might be even next month. So we'll see. I actually went down there a few years ago. It wasn't bad. I do give Truist Park my stamp of approval. So there's that. I like the battery. Speaking of batteries, the area around the ballpark's not bad. I checked out Turner Field briefly. I couldn't go inside because I was busy, but I guess I could have got a tour technically, but I didn't. But anyway, everyone check me out on Arskina. Everyone follow us on Arskina everywhere. My personal Twitter is Julian Gallardi 1. Instagram's Julian Gallardi 11. Shawn, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And we'll be in touch.
Yep. Julian, have a good one, sir. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Where's my ending? Okay, here we go.